Welcome back to Mysteries of Haitian Vodou. I'm your host, Papa Mystique. And with me, as always, is the insightful and ever curious Natara Rose. How are you feeling today, Natara?
I'm feeling great and excited for today's discussion. We're diving deep into one of the most iconic and powerful figures in Haitian voodoo, Papa Legba. Now, if you've been following us, you know how crucial he is to voodoo. But for those new to the tradition, get comfortable because we're about to explore the crossroads of the visible and invisible worlds.
That's right. Papa Legba, he's the gatekeeper. He's the guardian of the pathways and the one who decides if we can communicate with the law. You can't begin any voodoo ceremony without first calling on him. And today, we'll not only discuss his role, but also dive into his roots, his symbolism, and his connection to the afterlife. Welcome to episode 2.
So let's start with the foundation. Who is Papa Legba and where does he come from?
Papa Legba's origins trace back to West Africa, where he appears in the Fon tradition as Legba and in the Yoruba tradition as Elegua. He's considered a trickster, the messenger, the one who controls the doors between the realms. So when the enslaved Africans were brought to Haiti, they carried his spirit with them, and he evolved within Haitian voodoo, merging with Catholic saints like Saint Peter, the keeper of the heaven's keys, and Saint Lazarus, the protector of the past and healing. Now, I want to mention this. Last week we talked about syncretism and we talked about Legba and Saint Lazarus. Well, why did our ancestors choose Saint Lazarus to represent Legba? If you look at the picture that they use of Saint Lazarus that normally depicts Legba, it's Lazarus with a dog and he also has a cane. Why the dogs? And this is in the book too. Our people chose Lazarus because what the dogs represent is Anubis and his wife. Anubis from Egyptian spirituality. Anubis, he had the canine head. His wife also had a canine head. At the end of your life, he weighs you. And this is the same thing that Legba does, which we'll talk about later on. But our people chose Lazarus mainly because of the dogs. What the dogs represent is Anubis and his wife. Once y'all get the book, you'll read the whole entire story, how our people came to make that decision. I do want to read an excerpt from the book. Legba strides into Haitian voodoo as a towering law, his roots tracing back to West Africa's ancient crossroads. Among the Fawn of Benin, he emerges as Legba, and with the Yoruba of Nigeria as Elegua. Tricksters, messengers, guardians of the thresholds in their respective pantheons.
That is so interesting. It makes sense that Papa Legba became such an essential figure in voodoo because he represents transition, movement, and communication. So he isn't just a spiritual figure, he also represents resilience of the Haitian people.
Absolutely. He's more than just a messenger, he's the balance. He connects the living and the dead, the seen and the unseen. And that brings us to a crucial aspect of Legba's role, judging souls after death. I'm going to read another excerpt from the book. He isn't only responsible for the connection between us and the spirits, he also helps us traverser Allah, which means when we die, we cross over to the spiritual world. When you die, before you cross over, Legba must judge you. He has a balance. He will weigh up all you have done, good and bad. If you have done more bad than good, then you will never cross over.
Indeed. So it sounds like in Haitian tradition, if someone hasn't lived well, then their soul can't rest.
Exactly. That's why we have the ritual called the ninth, in Haitian Creole, neuvième, where family and friends return to the grave after 9 days to ask for forgiveness on behalf of the deceased. They bring coffee, water, and prayers in hopes that Legba will grant them passage to the afterlife.
All right, so let's get into some questions that came back on your platform. We had some great ones this week. One of the questions that came up was, what offerings does Papa Legba like?
Great question. Legba enjoys simple yet meaningful offerings: cane syrup, rum, cornmeal, peanuts, cigars, coins, and of course, sweets like honey and candy. Here's another excerpt from the book that I'm going to read. His colors: red, yellow, brown, sometimes black, glow with the earth and blood, and his offerings delight him: cane syrup and rum, sweet and strong, cornmeal, peanuts, corn, sustenance from the land, tobacco, cigars, coins, pleasures and tribute, candy and honey, a trickster's treats.
That is really good to know. We have seen many images of Papa Legba, including the cover of your book. Can you tell the listeners what image best represents him?
Yes, so Legba can appear as an old man with a cane, and he can be playful like a child, testing people with riddles before granting them access to the spirits.
Here's another question that came back on one of your platforms. What's the difference between Legba and Kalfou?
Great question. So many people confuse the two, but I will say this: they are both spirits of the crossroads. That's important to know. But Legba is part of the Rada tradition, the Rada rite. He is wise, he's gentle, he's a patient guardian of the crossroads. Kafu, on the other hand, he belongs to the Petuo tradition, which is the fiery, intense force that governs raw magic and untamed power. So they're both spirits of the crossroads, but Legba's a little more easier to deal with than I would say Kafu. Some people think Kafu is Legba's brother, his cousin. Depending on who you talk to, you'll get a different version of how he and Legba are related. Some people say he's just Legba on another right. So in Haitian Voodoo, you have the different ways of defining who a spirit is and how they may be related to another spirit. I wouldn't say somebody's wrong or, this person's right above the other one. I just take all of them and apply it accordingly. Let me read this, another excerpt about Legba and Kalfou, coming straight out of the book, Mysteries of Haitian Vodou. There's often confusion surrounding the relationship between Legba and Kalfou, yet there are two aspects of the same powerful law, each manifesting with a different voodoo rite. Legba reigns with the Rada tradition, embodying wisdom, guidance, and the gentle opening of spiritual pathways. However, when his energy shifts into the fiery domain of the Petuo, he is known as Kalfou, a powerful force of raw power, crossroads, and untamed magic.
This was such a powerful episode. I feel like we barely scratched the surface with Papa Legba. There's so much depth to him: the wisdom, the trickster energy, the guardian role.
Exactly. And that's why he remains one of the most important figures in voodoo. If you want to deepen your understanding of Legba and the other law, my upcoming book, Mysteries of Haitian Vodou, dropping on May 2nd, it will give you all the insights that you need. This episode was just a taste.
And if you love today's discussion, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Also, share this episode with anyone who wants to learn the truth about voodoo. And we are always thankful for our new subscribers.
Yes, thank you to the new subscribers. And next week, we'll be diving into another fascinating topic that's coming right out of the book. Until then, may Legba open the doors of wisdom for you.
And may your path always be clear. See you next time.
And before we leave, I want to leave you with this quote: The crossroads is the most important of all ritual figures. Whether drawn in flower, on flat ground, or traced in the air, The sign of the crossroads is always the juncture where communication between worlds is established.